I started. Well, let me just start, shall I? Me, rather than trying to organize everything. I woke up this morning and I say I woke up this morning, right? I've been up and down. I straighten things because I get distracted, not because I'm vain. I keep trying to tell myself that, and I'm finding myself doing that. See, I'm distracted, but once it's gone, I'll be fine. It's one of the lessons that I've learned, in taking time and having to be alone for so long, be physically alone as well, not just emotionally. I woke up early this morning. I don't know if this can hear me, but you know what? I'm tired of caring. I'm just tired of caring so much. I need to focus on me. I woke up this morning wanting to share. It's very early, or certainly early for me. Well, I say certainly early. It's 7:20. And I've been up throughout the morning. I thought it was morning and I looked and it was midnight. And every couple of hours. And I should be grateful for that because normally it's every hour in pain. And one of the biggest hurdles for me has been the physical pain that I'm constantly in and trying to function with it. Anyway, I'm digressing. I'm going to keep looking at certain things as cues so I stay on focus. So I don't also try and edit things because that's at the heart of everything. I don't want to edit anything. That's why it's been hard to call the things that I've been doing poetry because I don't want to categorize anything, box myself into anything because I don't want to edit. This is me. This is the tapestry of me, and I woke up this morning wanting to say it all out loud because the thing that had been keeping me up is I have been going back and forth with the ends of my relationship. The last relationship I've had, how it ended. And I won't lie, there have been times when I'd wake up and then bang my head against the wall. So 6 o'clock, I thought, right, okay, I'm gonna get up. But I just sat at the edge of the bed. Again, this game of tennis of how could you lose for 4.5 years of your life with someone? When I replay the things that happened in my relationship, that part of me that's being hard on me. When I say being hard, I know it's not trying to be hard, but how I feel it is hard. Because to share what happened is to question me, like, why would I let that happen? I think that's what that part of me, that's what my mind is making it come across as. Why did you let that happen? How can you tell your story when there are things that happen that you're like, how the hell? I don't want to look a fool. And then I don't want to go too deep into that because that's not me. That's not the story I want to be, but it's all me. This is the tapestry of me. I'm not going to edit me because I've been edited for so long. I wanted to tell my story. I've been expressing it through so many different mediums and not really knowing how to share, when to share, what to share, trying to get things in order. But this is about my healing journey. This is my order, right? I've been wanting to express something yesterday. It really felt like, okay, right, this is why I'm doing this. You know, this is why I'm wanting to do this channel, and the struggle I'm having as an old woman, feeling like an old woman because I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. But it's been really hard to do that video. I spent all day yesterday feeling like it needs to be the first one. It needs to be the first one I do. But it's been really difficult to watch it because it's called A Year Ago Today. When I say that out loud, a year ago today, it's only a year. So I've been looking at the images, no sound, because there's no need to re-trigger myself, just the images, and trying to put things together and post things in a way that's logical, that people can understand. But then something kind of just arrested me this morning of, no, I don't care anymore. It made me see what I've gone through in the last few years. I say few years, it's been brutal, and I want to share. And for me, this isn't about wanting to share. I want to sit in front of a camera and tell my story. I think that's why I've been finding it so challenging, because the way I've shared, the way that's more natural for me to share has been through writing, through singing, whether that's covers or writing my own things. But now I keep getting drawn back to this, or I keep getting drawn. I made this commitment of filming and sharing with Christopher, but I need to share the bit before. You know, that need is coming from me, and how I share that is down to me. I woke up and I was like, right, okay, morning routine. I wanted to do this I Can Explain song, which is the thing I'd listed. So I've got a video about that too. See, I've been doing all these videos and not posting because I've been so worried about the order, and is it too long? And that's the point. This is a new journey. See, I'm jumping around. But who cares? This is me. You can see this is how I've been feeling. Because I've had memories of a man that was constantly putting me down, constantly criticizing me. You know, I have dyslexia. I thought being open about myself would tame him, but it didn't. He took my traumas and weaponized them. So I can see how I'm hypersensitive about certain things right now. And also very fidgety because it's a nervous response too for me. And I know that. I was sitting thinking, how can I share my story? I should, it's embarrassing. But no, how many other women have been through this? And I go back to my mother's words. How do I want to be remembered? I want to be remembered as someone who can show how they contributed to the gift of life they've been given. I want to get it out. I need to get it out. because I know that there will come freedom for me. And also the key thing that for me, my desire, I want my contribution to be is to make other people feel that it's okay to share. It's okay to be vulnerable. I pulled away from media, I pulled away from people because I was sick and tired of seeing like the perfected, glossy, everything's perfect. It's not. So why am I trying to do it? Why am I trying to get things in order? It doesn't make sense. So I woke up and then did the ritual of, right, okay, let me go wash my face, brush my teeth. I say the ritual. That's my ritual when I know I'm in a good emotional and psychological state that I'm healing. And I thought, okay, right, let me do a video. Then I was going to start the video with I just woken up. And I started cracking up thinking, that's going to sound like you just woken up and yet you're fresh-faced. And it made me think of that video. What's that video with that beautiful that film with that beautiful, beautiful black woman, and she cuts all her hair off, and but then when she wakes up in the morning with her partner, she always looks perfect. It will come to me. I thought, I don't want to come across like that. And even now I'm like, this is not an effort, love. You've only washed your face. I'm taking the grit out of your eye. Again, I'm doing what I know I do. I'm jumping around because I'm anxious about what I want to share. I spent 4.5 years in a relationship that came with a lot of baggage and damage. 2 children with emotional and psychological mental problems, issues. A high dependent ex-wife. A racist family. And I think, how did I allow this to happen? And then I had to pause and think, it's not about me allowing it to happen, reminding myself that I can explain. And the most difficult things I found to admit to is how vulnerable I've been. I've been very vulnerable, and as a black woman, to say that, to accept that, has been hard. I have been very vulnerable. I can't be hard on myself because when I met this man at a time where I was trying to detract from the rest of my life. I had had 12 surgeries, my life on the line over and over and over again. I thought I was in a point of freedom, and I wasn't. Just as I am starting to get better, my father dies. I say my father. Another story. Then my mother gets cancer again, and then my sister, someone who I've been raised with as a sister, dies. Her husband dies. Someone I've known all my life. The closest people to me had died. I then spent a year fighting for their children. Again, being abused. While doing it. Because I felt I'd made a promise. I want to get this out today. Fast forward, and that fast tracks us to, I've lost both parents. My sister, her husband, and the pain of it all. And it gets me to 2019. And I say, right, I've put my life on at rest long enough. Go through IVF, I have a miscarriage. I lose all my embryos. And then I think, right, that's it. I'm just going to get on with life. Just give myself a break. I'm going to date. That's what you do then. That's why in my mind at that time, that's what you do, right? You just date to show you're better. But I met this man. I remember at a time of dating, I said, I don't want to date. I don't want to be in a relationship. I want to date. But I don't want to be in a relationship. I met this man 7 weeks after I'd had a miscarriage. 3 months later, he'd moved himself into my home. And I say moved himself because I didn't actually ask him to move in. Not just himself, him and his 2 children. Himself and his 2 children. And roll into COVID. And my own health started to decline. Because of the stress and the anxiety of being in a home that was now full of conflict. In the household where his 2 children were afraid of him. The shouting and the screaming and the shouting and the screaming. And when I'd say stop shouting, stop screaming, I cannot deal with it. He'd say it wasn't him, it's my past trauma. And that's why I'm sensitive. I invested 4 years working with him and his children, 4.5 years. 4.5 years where my own health declined. I decided to leave. I decided to leave, not easily. First, it was his mother had said, I don't want a black baby defiling my family bloodline. Those are the exact words. I don't want a black baby defiling my family bloodline. That was in April of 2022. In May of 2022, his eldest had significant mental health issues and wanting to go to the Priory. So the behavior escalated, self-harming, being fascinated by fire, and how unsafe that made me feel in my own home. That's May and June 2022. I'm jumping, but it doesn't matter because the songs, music, the poetry will all complete the story. May 2022. Oh. July 2022, I get engaged. And even then, I know the doubts. I got engaged in a situation with a man that was screaming at me 2 nights before. Screaming at me so much so that I slept on a beach. But yeah, I still said yes. Because all I was ever really craving was that stability. A sense of safety. Even if it was with the wrong person. Because that's the thing with trauma. You learn to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You're comfortable in the uncomfortable. That's trauma. When I did, that's where I got to. I'm going to open the blind. You see, I'm getting distracted. I'm not going to stop filming. I'm just going to let this roll because there's something in me that needs to be free. So hopefully this stays up. Wobbly. Hang on. You see this little wobbly stand thing that I'm using right now? That's what I was laughing about the film. People would think, you didn't just wake up. Of course not. I've been up and I thought I'll put my onesie on and get warm. Oh my God. Nappily ever after. That's the film Napoli Ever After, where she wakes up perfect in the morning. I'm like, no, I've been up for a couple of hours, so I was just still in bed. It's a pain day. It's not a pain day. I just woke up in pain, should I say? I'm still here. Ah. Okay. The place is so untidy. I'm most embarrassed. I'm like, again, don't be embarrassed. This has been part of the journey, is learning to accept myself, because this is the thing, you know, we want other people to accept us, but if you don't accept it for yourself, it's pointless, you know, no one will. So, and again, I'm not going to edit this video, because this is the stuff that gets me, that I don't do it, you know, the fear seeps in, and I don't post. So with this, I know if you've got the patience to get to the end of it, by then you'll understand my story. And if you don't have the patience, I'm really sorry for that, if you think I went on too long, but that's kind of me. So thank you for taking the time, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm not changing me. Right, see, all of this awkwardness is because, again, it's accepting the fact that I'm fragile right now. I think that's the thing I've been struggling with, accepting that I am fragile, and I wasn't able to accept that when I went into this relationship. My heart. And because of that, I wasn't able to ask for help. And the more I didn't ask for help, the worse it got. And what I didn't know then, that I do know now, which is part of the story, which comes out in the poetry, is the actual one person that lived nearby that, okay, safety-wise, because that's how intense screaming would get. My door frames are still broken. Of everything I fix, it's the one thing I've not been able to get done because I can't do it, and I desperately want it done. I look at my door frames and they're still broken. The door handle is still broken, and it's a year later. I guess this is part of the, I can't believe it's been a year introduction. I'm just gonna post as is, you know. Bear with me because I need to open the blinds as well. I'm in quite a lot of pain, so I wanted to, again, I guess this is almost capturing my morning routine too. So I'm just appreciating how slowly I move in the morning, and I think I then try and make up for it in the afternoon and move faster, which actually then only makes me even slower. It's so silly because it's all I took about in my corporate job. And vaping, again, it's about showing my whole self, because I've been like, well, I want to show myself vaping on camera. You're supposed to be, look at your heart rate's 110. My heart rate's 110 right now. I should be speaking slower. I'm telling my story the way I have to tell it, you know. And some people say, right, be structured, but I've obviously woken up. It kept me up all night. It kept me up all night of wanting to share this. So I was with a man that frankly didn't care about me. Turning the lights on the camera. He didn't care about me. And the trauma. Oh, stop. You see everything. I've got all this tech. Everything's moving. The bed's moving. The phone's moving. I've got that light switch in. Look at the mess. I just have to show this. Normally I wouldn't show mess, so this is me moving forward. Look at my mess. Even the little wig that I'm trying on at the end. I thought, oh, do you know what? I could wear a wig instead of a hat. That's a pretty good idea. Look, over there. I think I'm getting distracted again because this is hard to share. And one of my closest friends will say, it's okay, I'll be patient with you, Chris. I know what you're doing. I know it's difficult for you. And it is. This is incredibly difficult. But all I kept thinking was my mother. I had a mother who shared a video about her direct experience of being circumcised. And I use the word circumcised, not female genital mutilation, for a reason. Again, in another story. What I wanted to share is what I've gone through. I watched my mother die. Over the course of 6 months. I was by her side every single day, except the last 7th to 3rd day. And even that gap, I'm still not reconciled with. But I lost my mother. My father died, and I thought it wouldn't be a big deal because he was never there. So I didn't think it would be a big deal, but that hit me hard. You know, and I flew back. I flew back from my father's funeral. And the next day I took my mother to hospital and she was rushed straight in with her heart. I took her into me taking the taxi and she was being really gripey. And we get there and the doctor says, "Are you okay? Alice, are you okay?" She says, "No, my heart." And the doctor checks her heart and her heart is 150 sitting. And that's what my heart has been. 150 sitting. So, watching my mother die, watching my sister die, and I say my sister, this is someone that was raised with me as my sister. It was always my sister, watching her die. Her getting sick just a few months before my mother dying. And then she dies a few months later. Her husband dies just before her funeral. So we have a double funeral, and there I am fighting for her 5 children. And then I'm worried about my health. Because I myself had just finished 12 surgeries. I was supposed to be recovering. I didn't have time to recover. Because my dad died 6 weeks after I'd had all operation. In that time, the man I was with had cheated on me. I was also trying to move house. I mean, that's a whole nother story. I want to tell my story. This is really hard, but I want to tell my story. Because I feel like I need to release that creative element, and I don't want to have to explain that. I don't want to have to talk through that. So I just want to just, in Kristinette fashion, just get it out, and it's done. Watching them all die. It's 2028. I gave myself 6 months off. I was like, right, you get 6 months, Chris. Vaping kills. Nicotine is all I have. I don't think I've even... See, I can't take painkillers. That's the frustration. Nicotine is all I have. After watching everyone I love die. And then I was supposed to have the children. So I turned my life upside down, moved home to have the children, only to have to fight a year. Have my name and reputation brutalized. So obviously I want them to move on. So I gave myself six months. And I went for IVF. Had a miscarriage. Lost all of the other embryos. I meet this man who seemed on the surface like it was all gonna be all good. You know? But that was only 7 weeks after I'd had a miscarriage. Of course I was fragile. It's hard for me to see that and say that out loud. Even to watch myself in camera and hear myself say I was fragile. To see my beautiful brown skin and say I was fragile, that's really difficult. I'm gonna move my bed. Bear with us for the tack. The very, very, very noisy tack. See, again, I know I'm gonna say something hard because I'm changing the subject. I was up all night because I worry so much about getting everything right that I don't do anything. And I know I'm not unique in that. So, as a coach, I know that for sure. So, it's a weekend in bed day because the pain, I think this will actually, why I know this will help with the physical pain release. Releasing it all will help. So where was I? I had IVF, had a miscarriage, lost my embryos. I met this man and I said, look, I don't want to be in a relationship. You know, I've been through enough. I had taken redundancy. I needed a change. So I changed my job. I'd taken redundancy. I'd moved house. I needed everything to change. I meet this man and he's like, he seemed like the man of my dreams. You know, I was very upfront. Listen, I'm going through IVF. I thought, he's like, oh yeah, that's amazing. 3 months later, I didn't know anyone. I'd asked him to have a copy of my key. Just in case I got locked out, and that he essentially just moved in. And I think at the time I was just so relieved to have someone because I'd just gone through 18 months of losing everyone and then moving into an area that I don't know anyone. I'm speaking fast again. My heart rate is high. Let me check that my heart rate is high. I'm going to take it off because I find it a bit distracting when it keeps beeping like that. And some would say, well, surely you shouldn't be taking it off, should you? Well, that's what you would say. It's not what I say, is it? Oh, I think that's it. I want to share my story because even with just going out, you know, being stuck at home for years, literally years, I've been stuck at home since 2020. It's crazy. But I want to share to let others know that it's okay. Because I'm also in sharing, it's also, I'm seeing myself back and hearing myself say it's okay. Of course, I was vulnerable. Of course I was. I just lost my parents. I just lost 3 people that were closest to me. Of course I was vulnerable. It's okay to say that. As difficult as I find it. I couldn't accept that when I was with him. And I don't want this channel to be about him. This is about Christopher. This is about me sharing with my twin. But this morning I just want to share my experiences because I can see that I've been beating myself up over the head over them. I'm like, why? I don't need to beat myself up. I was with a man that brought conflict into my life. His way of communication was screaming and shouting and slamming doors. And that terrified me because it was a big trigger for me. Being a victim of abuse, physical and sexual abuse. In childhood, the screaming and the shouting was a massive trigger for me. But this is when the gaslighting began. It's not me shouting. It's you, Chris. It's your trauma. I've jumped around, I know. So, I was going back to the timeline. of 2022. I just wanted to give some background of where I was. I was exhausted. I was exhausted because I'd been in a situation with a man that was intense. Children that came with so many issues. You know, an ex that sexualized her children. I remember saying to this man over and over and over again, if I didn't love you, I would call social services. Because these children are not safe. And then having them in my home and then feeling a sense of responsibility and overwhelm and watching my health, my own health decline in the process. So COVID, all of it. So by the time I got to 2022, I was exhausted. Having a crisis of my own, my internal crisis, my internal identity crisis. But I thought everything was moving forward by May of 2022, right? It's been 4 years. You know what it's like. I've invested so much time. I don't want to let it go. So you invest more of your time and more of your time. But nothing's changing. So I was a mess. I had been so ill. I had gone through treatment. Again, let's not divert. Story for another day. That had brutalized my body. I was ill. I went to the Maldives, place of paradise. This man proposes, I say yes. Even now in reflection, I'm thinking, I remember doubting that same night, like, shit, I'm not sure this is the right thing. He was screaming at me 3 days ago. I was sleeping on a beach 3 days ago. But I was craving stability. I was craving safety because my world had been so obliterated. I was craving safety. The whole time I'm in the Maldives, there's an issue because his kid here in the UK is now not eating. He's got significant mental health issues. So I'm there for 2 weeks. It was supposed to be a break for me because my health had declined. And once again, it was overshadowed by him and his children. Just fucking that's life, right? But I'm coming back. After he proposed, his mother had already made a statement of not wanting a black baby to defile her family bloodline. Let's not forget now that I've now made embryos with this man years before. I now have a racist and I have embryos with a racist. Just trying to comprehend that in my head. He proposes. And then this next day, he comes to me and says, well, my mum says I have to choose between her and you because you're okay as a wife. So you're okay as a girlfriend, but you're not okay as a wife. And he came to me and said that. And she's asked me to choose. But of course I choose you, he said. But on reflection from that day, his behavior towards me changed. His irritation, I felt like a fly being swatted. His internal conflict with how does he reconcile that? His relationship with his mother and his relationship with me, I saw it all and felt it all. His anger towards me for taking my side. We have to bear in mind that some part of the challenge for me was I've just spent the last 3 years, you've had a child that's had issues with identity, with identity around within the LGBTQ community. I've just had to face all of that, been focused on your child's identity, and racism to this level of I don't want a black baby defiling my family bloodline too. I don't want a black wife in my family. Asians are okay, but not black. These words were said. And I come back. And my health. I had gone from rehabilitating to I come back and I can't walk anymore. 3 days later, this man is screaming at me again. And then for 6 weeks, I was trapped in my home. When I say trapped, I mean trapped, because I live on the 2nd floor with no lift. I couldn't get down the stairs. My ex had his own place. But that summer holiday of 2022, he wanted the children to come and stay here in my house. Because firstly, they preferred it because I put my heating on and he doesn't. And he needed someone to babysit the other kid whilst he took the older one on appointments. 6 weeks. I'm still working. Now I'm ill. And now I'm having to have the undercurrent of racism from this man that I've just said I'm going to marry. Him now calling me a racist towards him. This is random conversations of how I've not accepted his Scottish culture. And I'm not accepting his cultural differences. These were the conversations we were having. And here I am battling with what do I do? How do I have embryos? What do I do? All I've ever wanted to be was a mother. What do I do now? What do I do now? And coming back and not coming back from the Maldives to the UK and not having space to think because it's about his children and his ex-wife, because she was a huge presence in my life. I have 4 people I'm trying to take care of. 4 people that put their problems onto me without anyone thinking about me, and including me. I wasn't thinking about myself either. Almost a year ago, I had enough, because after those summer holidays, I ran. After having his kid in the private, and he wants to stay here because it's closer, it's quicker. This time not paying rent, not paying bills, because it's quicker. I went away to Switzerland, to someone I thought, it's another light going off. Alexa, switch on journal. See, look. My house gets so distracting. Look, I don't know if you can see that. It's another light just going off and it makes it darker and I get distracted. Right. I was trying to reconcile what I do with this racism, and I wasn't given the space because it was about his kid. I went to Switzerland. to someone I thought was a friend. I arrived there vomiting because this was the purging of the stress. I couldn't stop throwing up. I was throwing up water. I couldn't keep down water. There was times I couldn't hold down my own saliva. I would vomit my own saliva. Excuse me for how disgusting that is, but it's true. That's how sick I was from this. I went to stay with someone I thought was a friend. And my second night there, I had a brutal accident with a hot water bottle exploding onto my lap. And I had second and third degree burns. Pain unlike anything I've experienced before. It's the whole of my legs, the top half of one and the bottom half of the other. To being burnt like that, and being burnt like that forced me to rely on someone that I was trying to move away from. I flew back to the UK for treatment because this is where I lived, and I was told they won't treat me because it's too expensive. I'd said to my partner at the time, listen, there's racism at my GP. I need you to come with me because I need help. So if they see you as a white guy, they'll probably treat me. And he saw the racism for himself. So it's like it became this whole thing of racism, like what's going on? There's always an undercurrent, but why so prevalent now? So the doctor refuses to treat me. He says I have to go back to Switzerland if I want the same level of care. So I now fly back to Switzerland on my own with second and third degree burns on my own. And the person that I thought was a friend left me out on the street for 3 hours. And then the same man on day 5 of these burns started screaming at me because I would not help him do a financial budget for his house with his children in a home that I didn't live in. And when he screamed and I had on a message, not even, I had it on a message, that's when I knew this is abuse. This is abuse because to see me in this level of pain and to disregard that so I can help you do a budget so you can rent a flat because you gave notice on where you're living without having somewhere else to live and putting that responsibility on me. I have treatment. I decide that's it. My life has to change. And that's when I started to focus on my home. I wanted to create a home that I felt safe in. I had been having nightmares in my own home. I couldn't face white walls because I would see blood running down them. Because the self-harming of his child was triggering me. I told this man, please, this is triggering me. I self-harmed, and the way this child is doing it is triggering. There's blood on my walls. Literally, there's blood on my walls. She's walking around with blood all over her all the time. And it's triggering me. I'm jumping because it's so intense. I'm like, was this such a good idea? I need to vape. I wanted to tell my story, but I didn't want it to be about a man. It's like I'm starting there, but it's not that. It's just that's where I am in this time. So when things got so bad, I come back in September. I'm now not walking. Now I'm literally stuck in the house. I can't have physical treatment. I can't have physiotherapy anymore because I'm an infection risk. And I'm working with 2 burns, opposite legs, top and bottom. You can imagine how uncomfortable that is with no pain medication. I was on paracetamol because the GPs want to give me pain medication. Well, again, they talk about the racism towards me as a black woman. So my experience after 15 now surgeries, I've had surgeries with paracetamol. and seeing people of other ethnicities being given morphine for headaches. That's another story. I realized I needed to change. So I changed my home. I put everything into my home. If I couldn't go out, if I had to be home, then let me make it a home that I loved. Because I'd seen it as a prison, a place that I'd been trapped in. So I poured everything into my home. And then I started menstrual cycle awareness, tracking. I say tracking, I don't know if it's that. Everything, my mood, my emotions, every single day throughout the day, tracking. Trying to find a sense and find grounding in myself because I felt like I was going mad. The Maldives trips were supposed to be a relief for me from being unwell. You know, the summer holidays were supposed to be a rest for me, but it wasn't. I had kids with mental health issues. I go to Switzerland, that's supposed to be a rest and time for me with a friend, and I get 2nd and 3rd degree burns. I'm trying to leave a man, but I can't now because I'm latched to him, because the person that's supposed to be a friend to me that lives down the road doesn't actually help me at all. This man abuses me, and yet I go back because I needed him. I needed shopping. I couldn't eat without him. I was now fully dependent on him because I couldn't go out. And things changed when I finally broke up with him a year ago this month. And he smashed down my doors. And I'd asked him for space and come into this very room. And he follows me into this room and starts calling me a selfish C-U-N-T, a selfish bitch. You fucking selfish bitch. Why? To smashing up my doors. To taking money out of my account and then cancelling all of my direct debits and fucking up my credit. To, worst of all, was, if you want your embryos, you need to pay me £55,000 because I've done the maths and that's how much I've spent on you in this relationship. Then I reached out to people I thought were my friends because I couldn't eat now. Because in trying to keep him out, in holding the door and trying to keep him out, bear in mind I wasn't walking because of my hips. I only had my hands. I sprained both of my wrists. So I was walking around on my elbows and my knees. And also to find out that the women that were in my life had actually had a relationship with him behind my back. Were sending messages between themselves and their communication with him. I'm going to stop now because I can see it's rising up. It gets to a point when it's not healthy to share, so maybe this is going to get broken up. But then, for me, the most painful was when I was exactly a year ago and I had a mental breakdown. One of them said, I'll take care of your dog, Teddy, the love of my life. Because I was like, he's all I've got. I'm not going to have a kid now, but at least I've got the dog and I love him. She said, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of him for you till you get better. Only for her to call my ex and give the dog to him behind my back. After explicitly saying, do not contact my ex. And then she calls me and says, I know you said you didn't want me to, but I contacted your ex. And he wants David. And it's not really about what you feel. It's about what's best for Teddy. Those are the exact words. So in the space of 6 months, everyone that was in my life was gone. My ex-fiance, the 2 children that I'd spent 4.5 years of my life literally raising, 5 of my closest friends. The only people I had close to me were not nearby. So I was alone. And in that aloneness, it forced me to face myself. In that aloneness, it forced me to face the emotions. And that's where I say poetry. I couldn't write, so I started just using my phone as a dictaphone. And I would just record what was coming out in that moment. I made a decision to sit with the pain, to sit with it, to not fight it, to pour everything I had into my home. I said I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how, because I had a mother that didn't know how, so she couldn't teach me how to love myself. But I thought, I'm going to pour everything into my home, because if I can make the effort with my home, then everywhere I look, I'll be reminded of how much I love myself because I put the effort in. I designed my entire home around my menstrual cycle to support my menstrual cycle, to support the more I learned about myself and the power of my cycle. Each room represents a phase of my cycle, and that's how I live now. This is still a journey. And then roll forward. In December of last year, I'm like, right, okay, we can do this, Chris. And then 1st of January, I was excited because I'm like, right, okay, baggage is out of my life. The cancer is out of my life. I can move forward. But on the 4th of January, the pain struck. Because one of the things we'll talk about in another video is my health. I've been ignored by health professionals for such a long time. I am in chronic pain most of the time and have been in chronic pain for years. But I went into hospital in January because the pain was so much. Because from the burns, I've torn my hips. So the connection between my hip and my pelvis has been torn. I'm trying to rehab that. I don't walk alone without aid. I go into hospital to manage pain. And while I'm there, I have a heart attack. While I'm there, I'm racially abused. While I'm there, I have to leave a hospital that my heart rate is 150 and it's being ignored. 3 o'clock in the morning, I walked out of the hospital because I was being ignored, and my with a blood pressure that was dangerously high. The triggering of even being in hospital, I hadn't stepped foot in hospital since my sister died. I hadn't been able to go when my brother-in-law died. I hadn't stepped foot. And the fact that I was there was, I need help. And we'll see that in the videos that I recorded, which is so cathartic that I didn't get help. So now I'm back home, and it's like I've come full circle almost a year later, because this home that I've created is a space that reminds me everywhere I look is a picture frame. That's how I've designed it. Everywhere should be like looking into a picture frame everywhere I look. That has now become the womb. When I was designing it, I called it the womb. And actually now in this year, it really has become the womb. It's my womb. It's my space of safety that I've created for me. So for me, I wanted to share just the backstory and background, because I'm tired of worrying about what order I post things in. I could die any minute. I think that gives me anxiety as well, because my heart still isn't under control. So I'm like, I could die any minute. You need to get it out. Stop worrying. So anyway, I'm going to stop now. Wow, I've talked for an hour. Oh, there you go. I didn't think I could do that. But the point is, there's no rhyme or reason or order in the posting. This is my story. This is my background. This is where I am now. What I want to heal from now. So everything you see is part of my healing. part of my healing of being a lone twin. I didn't even talk about that. That was a trauma I was facing, because that was a trigger in 2023 too. Surviving a lone twin, losing my family, losing the closest people to me, having to start my life again, find new friends, rely on new people. But I am becoming, I am transforming, and this is the tapestry of me.